So I'm going to hand over to Ralf from Brocade. Brocade is one of our sponsors for this meeting, and we are very happy to have them here and look forward for the interesting talk. And I heard a bit of demo in the end as well. Okay. Over to you, Ralf.
Thank you. This better? Okay, great. Well, good morning. It seems that we have lost some people after the social yesterday. But so this presentation is going to be twofold. I have my colleague, David, who's going to talk about the automation part. So what I'm going to do is basically give you an overview of a new product we recently announced, which is the SLX. So I'm not going to bore you with like all the feats and speeds, but I want to give you like a short impression of what we're doing, and in particular the operating system side of this SLX platform will be most interesting for you. This is for the sales guys, so I'm accountable for what I'm saying, so we can leave this out. So what is about the well, basically the requirements? It's about agility. It's about the make it easy button. It's about the adoption of any platform inside, well, automation. We have seen a lot of presentations on automation, on workflows, on all kind of scripting, and this is going to be essential for going forward with any kind of solution you have. It's about SLAs, it's about having visibility within your network. I'm going to explain a little bit more about this going forward. But we have some really interesting features within the system to create real visibility without disrupting any kind of services or data packets. And it's about exponential growth. Yesterday, we saw the presentation about the huge boxes. Well, we still have huge boxes as well, but the density is a little bit higher. As I will explain, for instance, with the initial 8-slot system, we can go up to 288 100 gig line rate ports. So this is the SLX 9850 routing solution. Going forward, there will be smaller boxes as well, like pizza boxes. With different kind of configurations running the same operating system. So what is on the hardware perspective? So we moved away from custom silicon. We're moving towards merchant silicon. So Broadcom is the way going forward. We see this with a lot of other vendors using merchant silicon. It's a future-proof ready system. So we can scale up to even accommodate like new standards for up to 400 gig. We have plenty of capacity on a single line card. We can go up to 11 terabit. We have deep packet buffering, so deep packet buffers as well. So we can do all kind of inspections and manipulation with the frames itself. And what is most important is the platform flexibility if it comes down to the operating system itself. So for instance, what we do is we have a third-party VM which we support within the system, which allows you to run your own tooling on the box. You can, well, I have all kind of examples later on for that. But it makes the use case, particularly in operations, troubleshooting, remediation, as you will hear later on in the second part of the presentation, quite interesting. So, what is the box? It's a big, shiny, ugly box. Lots of ports. We have 8 slots, so this is the 8 slot. There's a 4-slot version, which has up to 11 terabits per blade. We have lots of redundancy, so redundant management, redundant fabrics, and power supplies. The concept here is that, as you can see, the line cards are put in horizontal, where the fabrics are put in vertical. And the reason for that is that we have decided to use a backplane-less, so mid-plane-less design, where all the line cards are directly connected to all fabric cards, which gives us all kind of advantages. So what are we currently delivering? And actually we do have a launching customer, M6, as you probably all know, has selected this platform for their P routers. So we currently have an 8-slot and a 4-slot version of this system, and we support 2 types of line cards. One is the 36 by 100 card, which is like a hybrid card. We actually, there are like multiple towers on those cards, and every tower serves a certain amount of 100 gig ports. But you can actually use this for 40 gig and even fan out for 10 gig as well. And then we have a separate 72 by 10 line card for the system available. So there are 2 flavors, one with a little bit more packet buffers and some feature support, which is the M version, which supports MPLS, and then later on stuff like EVPN and so on. So, but in total capacity, we can go up to like 288 line rate 100 gig ports, or 1920 10 gigs in single chassis. So what is the design? It's like I said, it doesn't have a backplane, so every single line card is connected to the fabric itself. And as you can see here, and somebody pointed me out, I should do this on both sides. We have this connector, and this connector actually allows us to put the line cards directly to the fabrics. So what will happen if there's like a second gen, like the Jericho 2 chipset coming out? For us, it's very easy to upgrade to accommodate a new chipset. So if we move from, let's say, 36 port by 100 up to like 60 port by 100, it's a very simple change for us to accommodate this, because we don't have the backplane to worry about. We just have the direct interface with the fabrics. So this makes it really kind of robust and future-proof going forward. Obviously, got like all the stuff mentioned in this slide, but you can read by yourself. Front to back airflow, and but the major part is it's a midless, mid-plane less design, so it gives us a lot more flexibility going forward. So this about the hardware. What the real change is the way we use the operating system, or the operating system itself. So anyone familiar with the NetIron family, the MLX and XMRs and so on? I mean, this was basically monolithic code, which is fast, but it has some disadvantages. In particular, if you look at like API support, netconfig, automation, it has some limitation there. What we've done with the SLX OS, we created those VMs. We're actually using a KVM hypervisor on our management module, which has the SLX OS running in one VM and the guest VM in another. The same kind of thing applies for the line cards itself. We're using Linux-based, so it creates a lot of flexibility for us. On the networking side, so what we've done is we created the project for the SLX was called Fusion, and Fusion was related to what we've done with the VDX platform, the network operating system on top of that, and merged it together with the code from the MLX. So that gives us like a very feature-rich and proven code on the system itself. And I must admit, during the CAT testing itself, we just hooked up the MLXs and created like a nice playground to work with. And on the signaling on the MPLS side, I mean, we kind of anticipated, okay, we need to do some troubleshooting, but it worked instantly without any issues. The other part is the API part. So the system itself, it's disabled. It runs, you get like Python on the box itself, and this gives you some very good flexible things to do. I mean, if you want to create like a command, you just can call or put the Python script on your box and just call it from the CLI itself. And we will later on see that in David's presentation, how we can actually utilize those capabilities from the automation platform as well. One of the things you will see is the SLX Insight architecture. So I will go to that on the next slide, but it's basically, we have like a channel or a 10 gig interface from the management module to every single line card. So we can do all kind of traffic redirection, copying, mirroring, whatever you want in terms of inspection on the system itself. We support on the third-party VM, it's regular Ubuntu. We support all kind of applications. So what we're currently looking at is applications which we support. So we will support from, let's say, day one, delivered on the box itself. Think about stuff like Wireshark, TCP dump, and some others. Stuff like streaming support, for instance, using RPC will be on there. So instead of pulling all the information out of your box, you just can push it through streaming. And we're looking at more content or more application on that side as well. And then the last part, and won't tell you too much about it because that's part of David's presentation, it's the workflow composer. So anyone heard of a company called StackStorm? So we recently acquired that and basically made that part of our strategic platform for automation going forward. So how does the Insight architecture look like? So here we can see this is like on a management card. I'll do the same thing here. Oops, that one. So it's running KVM. We have like multiple, actually, we are currently using like 2 VMs, but theoretically we could have more VMs. That's something we're looking at. There is a analytics path from the management card to every single line card to every single tower. And so that allows us to basically put all kind of interfaces, all kind of applications using this analytic part from the management system to, let's say, do traffic sniffing for troubleshooting. But it's not only that, you can actually insert traffic as well. If you want to do timestamping or, for instance, test the latency between multiple systems, you could actually insert traffic using the same mechanism and use it as a probe. We can do all kind of remediation for it. So this is a very powerful feature within the system, and it's very open. I mean, if you look at the applications we're actually looking at, is analytics, it's data generation. I mean, we are currently thinking of what we're going to support on day one, but I mean, it's open to all kind of applications you can typically run on your current platforms, and just put it as part of your analytics or remediation or validation tooling going forward. So this is a little bit less than 20 minutes because I wanted to give some extra time to David. He's running, he will explain to you the automation part, but let's do the introduction yourself, David. And then we will both come up on the stage for any kind of Q&A you have. So David, the floor is yours. Oh, your clicker.
Thanks, Ralf. Just bear with me 1 second, I'll get the presentation swapped. Okay, great. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for having us here. This is my first time at one of these events, so thank you for having us and thank you for having Brocade. My name's David Gee. I've been with Brocade for about 16 months, and I work in a very different team. So I'm in a team that is part software developer, network consultant, and we bring a set of kind of consultative skills, and we offer that as a professional service in the field. And I cover EMEA, which is basically you guys and everywhere that's not America and Asia Pac. We've got a very short and sweet agenda here. I don't want to kill you by slides, so hopefully if I see any kind of chalk lines on the floor, it's a natural death and I've not caused that myself. I'm going to talk about network automation. We've already seen two really good talks. I think one by Carl, I don't know if I pronounced that right, Carl Moberg, and Christian Larsen yesterday. I think we've got some overlap there and some great introductions really for this. Why Brocade? Not many people will know why Brocade might be interested in this field. I mean, kind of barring the tins and speeds and feeds, we're involved in quite a lot of stuff. So I just want to kind of cover some of that and clarify why you might want to look at this. I'll talk about the Brocade Workflow Composer, which Ralf introduced as StackStorm and some of the differences there. I'll talk about ChatOps, and I'll try and make this interactive as well. I'm not just going to dictate. Hopefully we'll get some arms going up and some chuckles. And then, providing everything holds together, there's going to be a demo, and it's running in the background now. And I'm waiting for things to come across the top right hand of the screen and tell me it's broken, but so far so good. Okay, so network automation. I don't think you can read the social media in the morning without seeing something about social media, network automation. And you might not necessarily agree with a lot of the messaging that's coming out, so you'll see things like using Puppet and Ansible and Chef and buy this wonder tool from one vendor, and it's not easy to make automation meaningful and to, I guess, deal with the change that we all face. And what is that change? I mean, we've got changes in different ways. We have changes in the way we configure, provision, bill, auto-remediate, and measure services. We have the consumption rate is changing. We hear things like entitled generations coming up in the millennials. I mean, damn those millennials. But the reality is we're humans. My fingers can only go so fast. Our brains can only go so far in a day without making mistakes. We only have to look at some of our sources of truth. So whether you use Excel to track your network primitives or a database, how many people in the room right now operate from one single source of truth that's accurate and totally accurate? There's no hands. Just everybody in the room, just raise your right hand if you can hear me. I just want to make sure I'm seeing this. That's everybody. Okay. So arms up if you have one single source of truth. Yeah. So your arms aren't broken. I'm seeing things. That has to change. Every customer I go and speak to, and I've seen a lot of customers in the last 16 months, and it's not a criticism. We fail at automations as humans. And we have a myriad of APIs, and I'm going to call CLI an API because it is. It's our API into a platform. And we have NetConf, and we heard about NetConf and Yang yesterday. We have REST, SNMP. I've been tracking for the last few years who's been doing SNMP writes. I know of 2 customers. Hands up if you use SNMP to make write operations. Yeah, this is okay. So that's still 2. And we have lots of FUD. You only have to look at the market again. We have Whitebox and, we think OpenFlow and let's just do everything with NFV. And the market's in a stuck position. How do we do things meaningful and move forward without kind of either investing time into the wrong thing? And I did say kind of try and keep this fun. I love memes. Obviously this dog's stuck in a bit of a rut, not quite as bad as some of the situations that we find ourselves in. So how do we move forward? We need to be more consistent and have a reusable approach, and that means breaking things away from massive, humongous Perl scripts into small atomic units that we can reuse. Random automation effort, it's just not enough. Being able to tackle a problem and say, right, well, if this problem comes up again, I'm going to write a script and just have an alert that triggers a script. What happens when that problem changes or the platform changes or the pattern that you look for changes? The domain underneath the automation shifts and the automation's useful, and now we have more technical debt to try and fix something that we had technical debt for in the first place. And I think the meme yesterday was quite funny. I'm trying to fix a problem that I caused, and I was trying to fix a problem that I tried to cause, and I tried to fix a problem. We get to the kind of key points. So good design yields adhesion for automation. It's a bit of a mouthful, but if you design services well and repetitively, for instance, if you design a point-to-point link And every time, you know the design is going to be the same, the configuration is the same, but all you do is you go to your network primitives database and you pull information and repeat. We have deterministic operations that we can then use automation and apply those two things together, which means the automation is stuck really well over the operations that you're obviously trying to do. If we can do that, I mean, we're in a good position. And one of the important things is we need an audit trail. There's no point automating these things and trying to drive consistency and high yields if we can't actually figure out what the hell went wrong and when it went wrong. It's quite embarrassing. And I've been trying to come up with like a, whoops, there's a cable there, I'll try not to kill myself. I've been trying to come up with a bit of a law. And you might think, well, why do you want to come up with a law? I mean, how do we approach automation the right way? And maybe a tagline to think about it. And automation, I've kind of come up with this. Automation has maximum impact in context when relevant. So if we try and automate something, it has to be relevant to the operations that we're trying to do. Again, if we go for the high adhesion piece, we go with high impact in context. So instead of provisioning a service and then, I don't know, pulling a MAC address for no reason, let's try and keep everything to an absolute minimum. I think as a one-liner, it kind of works. But I particularly like this meme. And I think if we do automation the right way, we can become really good and effective and fun killing machines. You like that? Not really, that's a lie. I don't want the industry rushing off to try and automate everything in a really bad way and then regret it. And obviously you won't get killed for it. Your boss might kill you, but we won't. If you kind of make a hash of things and get things kind of messed up. So, Brocade's an interesting place. Tech Field Day videos. Anybody been to the events? Anybody watched them? Anybody had Tech Field Day at your premises? Do you know what Tech Field Day is? So Tech Field Day is an online organization that basically gets paid to get industry individuals together, and we go and visit vendors. I used to be part of that before I joined Brocade. So Brocade pays Tech Field Day to come in and be scrutinized and say, hey, this is what we're doing, what do you think? You know, tear us apart or agree with it. We've got people that work in Open Daylight and other open source projects. StackStorm is still open source, the workflow composer, which I'll go through in a moment, is based on StackStorm. OpenStack, we have the NFV manager, Taka. You know, we pay people full-time to do this kind of cool stuff and be involved in open source operations. And on the right-hand side, so we have a dichotomy of things going on. We have the fiber channel business. You know, we do more than fiber channel. The wired and wireless Ethernet and IP services, and obviously we've got a load of VNFs. So you remember that we acquired Viata, and the Viata name kind of got thrown in the bin. We now stick Brocade in front of all of our products. So the Brocade SDN controller, Brocade Workflow Composer, and you can pretty much bet anything that comes out with Brocade something or other without the Viata name. So on to StackStorm, and I'm just kind of watching the clock, so I don't want to run out of time. The Workflow Composer, or StackStorm, which is underneath it, is a really simple but effective means of doing high-impact automation with an audit trail. And all it is a pipeline, a really simple pipeline. We have a sensor mechanism, and we can pull information in or have information pushed to it. That information goes into a trigger. All of the trigger information goes into a rule. So it is basically the if this, I'm English and I can't even say this, if this then that of automation. So we have the trigger gets sent into a rule, the decision gets made, and based on the rule that you configure, we send inputs to an action, and the action is effectively an output, and that can be anything. So the action be a Perl script that you already have, one of our custom packs, so maybe something that connects into the SLX, like Ralf was talking about earlier on. It could be anything, and the sensor, again, every bit of this pipeline is completely customizable, and it's really simple and very, very effective. And for those who know how Facebook do their auto-remediation, they have a system called FBAR. And I've been lucky over the years to be involved with things and kind of closed-door sessions with these organizations. And FBAR started off with one person creating a script to do some auto-remediation work. So if we just kind of harness that auto-remediation piece for now, and then the next person came along and created a script, and before long, and I say wind the clock forward a few years, a very high number of Facebook's problems get automatically remediated. Something like 95%, I think on the last read, of problems get automatically solved, and tickets will automatically get opened. And there is one person, I think on the last check, that's on call for the whole of the network. It's incredible. And you know, we're not talking about a 100 or 1,000 routers. The networks is massive. And StackStorm was built with the idea that we can do the same thing as FBAR kind of went down the line of, and then we acquired them instead of building our own. StackStorm is mature. And it's in customers like Netflix and NASA and some other very large competing vendors, which I won't mention the name of on the stream, but feel free to come and talk to me after. So, if we think about this in terms of a pipeline, I also said we'd talk about ChatOps. And ChatOps is great because it means I don't actually have to talk to people anymore. I mean, all this DevOps movement about building new cultures and friendships and relationships, to hell with that, I'm done. I'm quite antisocial. I'll sit on the corner in a room on my own with a laptop. You know, I'm not going to use those. They're terrible. ChatOps is not about that if you think that was actually the truth. Credit to you, but no. So ChatOps allows us to be really effective in teams, and now, even in Brocade, I mean, I'm in the UK, we have Ralf in the Netherlands. Our team is spread globally. And we couldn't do our business today if we didn't use an internal chat tool, whether it's Slack or HipChat or IRC or anything. And with the ChatOps integration, we can do things like send information from Slack, which then, if you follow the pipeline of the previous slide, goes through a rule and triggers an action, which could even be post another message back to Slack. Or even when when a rule's been triggered and an action's happened, we can post the output of that back to a Slack channel. So for auto remediation, this is pretty cool. Or even things like we've had a new customer sign up, you know, go and do some manual interaction with the customer maybe. ChatOps is really quite powerful, and a lot of our customers use this in a very kind of heavy way. I mean, hands up again. Sorry, I'm going to wear your arm out here. Do you use IRC? I noticed some IRC stickers around. Okay. Slack? Oh, okay, let's open for more than that. Okay. Anything else? Thank you. XMPP. Yeah, cool. So we use Hubot. If you don't recognize the logo is in the top right-hand corner of the screen. So I love this laser. This is brilliant. Anything that Hubot supports, StackStorm. This is terrible. I need more coffee. StackStorm can integrate against. I'm not going to do the dance. I basically suggested to the marketing team that we all need MC Hammer pants with some logos down the legs, and I thought it was kind of quite apt. Okay, so the demo should all be fine and it should all work. And I want to talk about the demo a little bit before I just run into the technical aspects of this. What we have is I've created a phony Slack group. I think I've called it UberNet or Uber Packets or something. We have StackStorm installed with Vagrant. It's on a virtual machine. You can stand StackStorm up in like 2 or 3 minutes. Google around for it. Please don't do it now because I need the bandwidth. I mean, just give me 10 minutes and you can download away. I've got a VPN open from my laptop to a lab, and I'm going to connect up via Telnet to some switches. Now, we can do SSH. I use Telnet because I like to capture things in case something screws up. I've got a full audit log, and I can understand what went wrong. We have some rules, and the rules I'll go into, and not even just I'll talk, but I'll show you. I'll go into the UI and show you what these rules do. CLI CRUD is a Python pack. It is a Python library you can install into scripts, which allows you to talk CLI to ICX and MLX devices. And then we have something called GOAP. I'm one of these guys. I started off in electronics. I like building things. 15 years ago, I built embedded software and hardware, an industry we now call IoT. So I like a bit of a crazy inventor, and at weekends I've got nothing better to do than code. So I built something called GOAP, which is a Go ping extractor. It's or executor even. It's a very, very lightweight, simple binary, which allows you to do some ICMP echo requests, coalesce all of the responses and put it into an in-memory database. And then if a group of nodes fails that you're monitoring with ICMP, an alert gets thrown at StackStorm. And right now I've set up a group. I'm monitoring one thing through a set of routers. If GOAP detects a failure, an ST2 call against StackStorm is made. And the thing with StackStorm is we have loads of different ways of receiving information, but one of the coolest is one called a webhook. And we can make a very dumb webhook, which allows you to throw anything at a URL. As long as it's JSON, we can parse it and we can pull information from the payload. So what I'm going to do in this demo is I'm going to cause a failure. GOAP will detect the failure. It will send a payload to StackStorm and basically say, hey, a group has failed. That'll trigger a rule. The rule will put the information into the CLI driver. The CLI driver connects to the switches. It will insert a static route. And then we should hopefully see on Slack everything that's happening at the same time. So I did say there was a few moving parts to this. So just bear with me whilst I get the next screen up and going. I think. Can you see that, streaming man? I'll make the text bigger as well. Can you see the screen? Nope. Yeah, give me 1 second. How about now? Sorry about this, folks. Mac's always interesting. Can you see the stream? Cool, we're on. Awesome. Right, and I'll see if I can do the same thing here. Right, so this, what you can see, the top screen is the Brocade Workflow Composer. Technically, it's StackStorm. StackStorm doesn't have the network integrations installed by default, nor does it do LDAP integration, RBAC on the APIs. We can do a simple upgrade and we can generate you a 60-day license key. So I'm running right now the Brocade Workflow Composer. I've done a very simple upgrade. I've added on all the bells and whistles of the BWC and basically changes the skin. So not only do we have a CLI interface for this, a full REST API, and a very simple but effective GUI. So on this screen here, you can see the history, so everything that's ever been executed, the time it was executed. And the cool thing is we can get output directly from the UI. So if you want to see the code and you want to see actually what happens, it's not a problem, and we can extract that from both the UI, from the API, and from the CLI. It's pretty neat. Actions, if you remember from the pipeline, are integrations. So we have the IP Fabric automation suite, which obviously is for the IP Fabric and for our IP Fabric automation going forward. We have a ChatOps integration pack, CLI CRUD, and we've got a load of stuff. Now, there are some, I think about 100 packs, including lots of things we can do on Linux and VDXs as well. So on the VDX pack, we have actions which map to netconf calls. So if you're thinking, well, you know, this is all very good and we heard lots of things about netconf and Yang, we can do things, and these things are easy to build. So what I've got in CLI CRUD, there are two options. There's a config command, so we can run a list of configuration commands, and there's an ops command as well. We also have a chain. So the actions can either be a one-to-one mapping between an input, a decision, and an action. They can be a list, so we call them action chains. So as in, do one, if one passes, do two, if two passes, do three, and they've all got failure conditions. If we have a fail, go to the fail clause. Or we have the Mistral workflow engine, so we have a full YACL-based, and YACL, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a language a little bit like Jinja 2, where we can do kind of cool things with formatting and variables. So we have three different ways of doing actions. So I have two simple actions, and then I have an action chain, which basically is a remediation action. And then we have some rules. And the rules, obviously, which maps the inputs to the actions. I have some basic kind of ChatOps stuff set up, which obviously ChatOps won't work without these things. We have some CLI CRUD actions, some rules even, so we can pull information in from the webhook, and I'll show you what this looks like in terms of how we set up the criteria and how we do the actions. And then the last bit, we have more webhooks, which calls off to CLI CRUD. So the idea being, on a single webhook call, so I could fire some information to StackStorm on the URI of, and let me just pull the right thing up. So the URL of GOAP, anything after GOAP / we can then pass the payload. So I'm looking for a status field of pass and a group of internet. So GOAP will send three things to StackStorm. It will send a group name. In this case, our group is called internet. A status, and it will either pass or fail. So we can do remediation actions or maybe ChatOps stuff on either or. And it will also be an ID. So if you have multiple instances of GOAP running, you can figure out where the alert came from. And what I'll do, I'll just show you quickly GOAP as well. So this is Swagga, for those who are familiar with it, and we can just make sure GOAP is up and running. And what I'm looking for now is I just want to make sure. So this is real time. So the status is true, and just to show you this is real time, this has been running all morning. So we're up to something like, 7,150-ish ICMP echo requests. A little bit of packet loss, not too much, but we're looking pretty good really. And right now we're not in any alarm conditions, which is great, because it means that the demo's good to go at this point. And then I'll show you Slack. I'm probably going to have to magnify this as well. Can you see all the text, by the way? Can you see the bash prompt and the browser? I just want to make sure you can read the text. So this is my phony Slack channel. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trigger, do this again. Make sure this is bigger so you can see it. I'm going to trigger a failure. So on my host machine in front of me, I'm going to basically add a route in for 8.8.4.4. And if we go back to here, you'll see I'm monitoring 8.8.4.4. My agent will notice that there is a failure. And then what will happen is GOAP will send the JSON payload towards StackStorm. StackStorm rules will be invoked, and the full workflow will happen. And if I get this right, I'll switch over so we can see the history screen, so you'll actually see this happening in real time. And I'll try and get all the screens layered the right way. So let's trigger this, and please work. I was kind of running with this morning, just to make sure things happen. In 3 seconds, we should see a failure, which I can see the alert has happened. So again, the payload status fail, group internet, GOAP ID is my IP engineer. And then in terms of our ChatOps window, we've got group internet is in a state fail, which I'd expect from the action, and it's attempting to auto-remediate. And then we have auto-remediated by posting command, and then a new IP route command. Again, ignore the IP addresses. This is on a remote lab. This is really to kind of show you how the actions and work, but obviously these can be real routes and for the purposes of the demo. But what we have is the auto-remediation was successful, which basically means, and we get error codes from all the stages. So this isn't, it thinks it's passed, it knows it's passed. We have a successful code return on the action. We have an action ID, so if we want to go back and figure out, well, actually, what triggered this and what caused it or didn't work the way we think, we've got a full audit trail. And now, and let's just go back, and just to preview this isn't smoke and mirrors, we go back to the group, what we should see is the group has failed. So status is now false for group internet. And if we go back here and mend our false condition, so if I now change the route on my host machine, another remediation rule will kick in. And what we should see on the history, sometimes this happens so quick you can't actually see it, and it's already happened. So group internet is in a state pass. So what's happened there is StackStorm has received the payload from GOAP, that the rules have been triggered. Just want to make sure we're seeing things properly. So this is what I was dreading, things not working, but it's working. StackStorm has actioned our rules and caused the triggers, done all the remediation logs. And what I wanted to show you actually was, and I've kind of failed to do this, so forgive me for this. I'm just going to run it again. And what we have here is I've logged in to the switch that StackStorm also logs into. And if I do a show run command, what you'll see, there's two routes. The 8.8.4.4, as per our rule, has been inserted. And if I now go back, reset the error condition, and what we should find, ChatOps updates us in the background, the state has changed, and the route should disappear, which it hasn't, which means I suck. Oh no, it's gone. There we go. Yeah, it's gone. So the auto-remediation piece happened. The interesting thing is we can do so much more with ChatOps as well. So I've created, who remembers Johnny Five from the 80s? Remember short circuit films? You remember the little robot? Yep. Cool. My little bot on here, I've called Johnny Five, and I can ask him if he's alive. Okay, let's try that again. And hopefully he responds instead of coming back with an error. And there you go. So Johnny Five is indeed alive. You know, we can do all sorts of kind of humorous stuff. I think I've also done an alias for me as well. No, it is capital. It's case sensitive, and you can turn that off. It's not really an issue. And you think, okay, that's not worked. So in that case, we can do help and see what aliases that we have available at our disposal. So let's try again, because apparently that should have worked. There we go. So just to let you guys know, although I've worked for Brocade for 16 months, never worked for a vendor before, work for Brocade just because their industry direction and the way they're trying to solve these problems aligns with my own kind of views. So if you want to know more about the Brocade Workflow Composer, how we can do things with the IP Fabric automation suite, or even kind of integrate this stuff into your own environment, feel free to give us a shout. You can also download all the source code for this, including GOAP, from my GitHub account. This week I started a pull request to get the CLI CRUD pack into the core of the ST2 code, so ST2 being StackStorm. And if you want to read more about this kind of stuff, you can catch me on ipengineer.net, my blog. And if you recognize my voice, I do some podcasts as well with Ivan Pepelniak. So this isn't a case of Brocade trying to show you a product and a wonder product. This is kind of real world stuff that there are more of me globally and people like Ralf that actually believe this stuff. And I think at that, I'm going to give you some time back, around 4 minutes, which means I've beat a record I tried of last night. So any questions at this point? And Ralf, do you want to come up?
So it's all real, what we're telling. We don't need a disclaimer. We are accountable for what we are saying. Any questions? I mean, we are here the rest of the day, so please feel free to just approach us if you have any kind of questions. Any questions now, directly?
Silence is scary.
All clear? Or okay.
So it either means we did a really great job or they all think we suck. Either way. So again, thank you for having us.
We'll find out. So again, I mean, if you want to have more information, actually, as we are engineers, Siri reminded us, so where's your banner? What banner? Yeah, the one you're sponsoring. You should have like a Brocade banner. We forgot about that, but hopefully this made a little bit up for that. So thank you, and again, if you have any questions, please let us know.
Thank you very much.